Yo, Army! Welcome back to JKMøst BTS, your ultimate home for everything Bangtan, where we dive deep into the soul of the fandom. Can you feel that electric buzz in the air? The 2026 Arirang World Tour is finally upon us, but behind those glittering stadium lights lies a web of secrets that almost left thousands of you in tears. We're talking about massive investments, high-stakes gambles, and a whisper of what if that nearly changed history. Have you ever wondered why your city's date was the last one confirmed? Or why a stadium worth billions almost stayed silent? Today, we are unmasking the 7 US cities that were inches away from being wiped off the 2026 tour map. Are you prepared to find out if your hometown was a hair's breadth away from a total blackout? Let's dive into the mystery. Number 7. El Paso, Texas, the Sun Bulls' silent gamble. Army, let's get real, nobody, and I mean nobody, saw this one coming on the 2026 Arirang World Tour map. When the schedule first leaked, the mention of El Paso, Texas sent shockwaves through the fandom, but not just because of excitement. There was a thick cloud of fan panic, because for a hot minute, El Paso was reportedly on the chopping block to be replaced by a second weekend in Dallas or even a pivot back to Houston. Why? Because the Sun Bulls Stadium had never ever hosted a K-pop act of this magnitude. We are talking about a venue that usually screams college football, not the high-octane, multi-million-dollar synchronized production of the world's biggest group. Speculation among the investigative side of Twitter and Reddit suggests that the logistical nightmare of moving the massive Arirang 360-degree stage into the border city almost caused HYBE to pull the Poland's time and Distatu 1 on HYBE. Plug entirely. Think about the sheer scale of the investment here. Millions of dollars were already funneled into scouting, but the Sun City almost lost its chance because of a rumored disagreement over the stadium's infrastructure. Fans were obsessively tracking flight patterns and cargo shipments, noticing a strange delay in the El Paso confirmation compared to the heavy hitters like LA or Jersey. The rumor mill was churning with stories that the power grid at the Sun Bowl might not have been able to handle the insane LED and laser pyrotechnics that BTS is bringing for this 2026 comeback. Can you imagine the heartbreak if thousands of Texas and New Mexico armies had to watch that date vanish? It felt like a high-stakes poker game where El Paso was the wild card that the house almost threw away. There was even talk that the city's proximity to the border created unique security insurance costs that made the bean counters at the labels sweat. But why did it stay? Some say it was a personal push from the members who wanted to reach deeper into the heart of the US, while others believe a last-minute multi-million-dollar local investment saved the day. It's a classic case of a high-risk, high-reward move that nearly ended in a no-go before it even started. The tension was so real you could practically feel it through the screen every time a coming soon teaser dropped without a Texas update. This wasn't just about a concert, it was about whether a city like El Paso could prove it belongs on the global stage, and they almost missed that ticket by a hair. Can you imagine the silence in that stadium if the deal had fallen through? It's a haunting thought for every fan who spent years waiting for a miracle in the desert. Number 6. Seattle, Washington. The Emerald City's near-total blackout. Seattle Army, we need to talk about the absolute heart-stopping roller coaster that was the Lumen Field confirmation, because for a while there, it looked like the Pacific Northwest was going to be completely skipped for the 2026 Arirang World Tour. Imagine the silence, no purple lights reflecting off the Puget Sound, no fan chants echoing through the misty streets, just a giant TBA where the Emerald City should have been. The speculation in the fandom was reaching a boiling point because Seattle was famously the first casualty of the 2020 cancellations, and for many, this 2026 date was supposed to be the ultimate healing show, the redemption we've all been praying for. But behind the scenes, millions of dollars were hanging in the balance, and the rumors floating around the Army detective circles were enough to give anyone a panic attack. The biggest theory? It all came down to the Arirang Tour's insane technical requirements, specifically the liquid LED floor technology that HYBE is debuting for this 2026 comeback. This stage is a masterpiece. It's a 360-degree immersive experience that uses sensitive holographic projectors, but rumors swirled that Seattle's legendary humidity and unpredictable spring rainfall were deemed an unacceptable risk by the production insurance companies. We're talking about a stage setup that reportedly costs over $25 million per unit, and word on the street was that the insurers refused to cover the show at an open-air stadium like Lumen Field during the rainy season. Fans were freaking out, tracking local weather patterns and even scouting for indoor alternatives like the Climate Pledge Arena, but everyone knew BTS needed the stadium capacity. There were reports that the contract was actually withdrawn for 3 weeks in late 2025, and during that time, fans noticed that the Lumen Field schedule had a suspicious private corporate event block that perfectly matched the rumored BTS dates. The speculation turned dark. Some thought Vancouver was going to swoop in and steal the PNW crown, or worse, that the tour would just bypass the region entirely to save on the millions required for specialized all-weather stage shielding. But here is where it gets emotional. The rumor that refuses to die is that RM, our leader Namjoon, was the one who personally championed this city. We know how much he loves the artistic, moody, and intellectual vibe of Seattle, the museums, the parks, the specific gray sky aesthetic that matches his solo works like Indigo or Mono. Speculation says he made it clear that the 2026 tour wasn't complete without honoring the fans, who lost their 2020 moment first. To make it happen, a rumored $12 million investment was poured into custom-designed weather armor for the stage. A first-of-its-kind transparent canopy system that would protect the sensitive electronics without blocking the view for the fans in the upper tiers. Think about the stakes. One technical glitch caused by a Seattle drizzle could have shorted out the entire Arirang narrative, causing a multi-million-dollar blackout mid-show. Every time a new teaser dropped and Seattle wasn't mentioned, the fandom held its breath. People were literally looking at the source code of the ticketing websites, finding ghost dates that were hidden and then deleted, then hidden again. It was a war of nerves between the stadium management, the insurance giants, and HYBE's vision. The atmosphere in the group chats was heavy with the 2020 trauma, where fans were saying, "Not again, please not again." When that final confirmation post finally hit the feed, it wasn't just a concert announcement, it was a victory over the elements and the corporate bureaucracy that almost robbed Seattle of its purple glow. This city was inches away from being a footnote in the 2026 tour history, a what-could-have-been story that would have haunted us forever. The sheer financial gamble of bringing a high-tech holographic show to the rainiest corner of the US is something only a group like BTS would even attempt, and the fact that they didn't give up on Seattle tells you everything you need to know about their bond with us. It's a story of resilience, of millions spent just to ensure that the Arirang lights would shine through the Seattle mist, turning a potential disaster into what is now predicted to be the most atmospheric stop of the entire tour. Can you even imagine the roar of the crowd at Lumen Field when the first notes hit, knowing that this moment was almost deleted from existence? It's enough to make you emotional just thinking about the what-ifs. Number 5. Atlanta, Georgia. The FIFA clash that nearly silenced the South. Army, hold onto your light sticks because the story behind the Atlanta stop of the 2026 Arirang World Tour is basically a high-stakes political thriller mixed with a fandom fever dream, and it almost ended in a total heartbreak for every Southern fan. We all know that Mercedes-Benz Stadium is an architectural marvel with that iconic retractable pinwheel roof, but in 2026, it became the center of a multi-million-dollar tug-of-war that left Atlanta hanging by a thread for months. The speculation started when the 2026 FIFA World Cup schedule was finalized, showing that Atlanta was designated as a major host city with massive renovation and turf protection windows that overlapped almost perfectly with the rumored BTS dates. Fans on TikTok and Discord started losing their minds, posting side-by-side calendars showing a blackout zone where no concerts were allowed due to FIFA's strict stadium readiness protocols. We are talking about a global sporting event with billions of dollars on the line versus the biggest musical act in the world, and for a long time, it looked like the beautiful game was going to kick the Arirang tour right out of Georgia. The rumors were brutal fan-run detective accounts claimed they saw internal memos suggesting that the Atlanta date was being offered to Charlotte or Nashville instead because the insurance premiums cover potential damage to the World Cup-ready grass were astronomical. Imagine the desperation of Southern armies who haven't had a proper stadium show since the love yourself, speak yourself era, seeing their city slowly fading from the speculative maps. The detail that really sent the fandom into a spiral was the secret turf war theory. Speculation grew that HYBE had to negotiate a multi-million-dollar restoration bond just to guarantee they could use the stadium, a sum so high it reportedly made the tour's profit margins for that specific stop look like a giant red zero. But the fans weren't just worried about the money, they were worried about the vibe. There were rumors that the show would have to be stripped down, no heavy pyrotechnics, no massive moving hydraulic stages to satisfy the rigid safety standards of the incoming international sports delegates. This led to a massive wave of army action, where fans began tagging local officials and stadium management, practically begging them not to let the city's musical soul be traded away for a soccer match. The atmosphere in the Atlanta fan base was one of cautious mourning. I remember seeing threads where people were already planning carpools to Florida because they were so sure the Mercedes-Benz blackout was a done deal. There was even a theory that the Arirang stage design for Atlanta had to be completely re-engineered to be weightless or suspended from the roof to avoid touching the sensitive field, adding even more millions to the production cost. Can you feel the tension? Every day that passed without an official sold-out or coming-soon teaser for Atlanta felt like a ticking time bomb. It wasn't just about a concert, it was about the identity of the city as a cultural hub. If BTS couldn't play in the house that HYBE's on-the-street aesthetic fits so perfectly, what did that say about the city's priorities? The reflection in the fandom turned deeply emotional, with many pointing out how Atlanta has always been a lucky charm city for the boys, a place where the energy is always 110%. The thought of that energy being redirected elsewhere felt like a betrayal by the very infrastructure of the city. Then, the midnight leak happened, a grainy photo of purple lighting tests reflecting off the closed Mercedes-Benz roof at 3 a.m. The fandom exploded. Speculation shifted from, will it happen, to how much did it cost to save it? Rumors suggest a last-minute intervention by local business coalitions who realized that the BTS effect on the city's economy, hotels, transport, and tourism was worth more than any temporary FIFA inconvenience. We're talking about an estimated $50 million boost to the local economy that would have vanished into thin air. It's a classic story of art versus commerce, where the sheer power of the army's presence forced a seat at the table. The fact that the show is still on is nothing short of a miracle, a result of millions of dollars in holding fees, and a logistical plan so complex, it supposedly took a team of 50 engineers just to figure out how to load the Arirang set in and out within a 4-8-hour window. This wasn't just a win for the tour, it was a win for every fan who refused to let their city be skipped. When the purple lights finally hit that stadium floor in 2026, every scream from the crowd will be a thank you to the universe for not letting this show become a what if. Can you imagine the sheer volume of that fan chant, knowing the city almost lost its voice? It's going to be historic, and the fact that we were this close to losing it makes the anticipation almost unbearable. Atlanta didn't just survive the cut, it fought its way back through a sea of red tape and multi-million-dollar hurdles, proving once and for all that nothing, not even the biggest sporting event on Earth, can stop the purple wave when it's destined to land. Number 4. Santa Clara, California. The Silicon Valley curfew crisis. Army, if you thought the drama in Atlanta was intense, wait until you hear about the absolute war of silence that almost deleted the Santa Clara stop at Levi's Stadium from the 2026 Arirang World Tour map. This one hits different because the Bay Area has always been a fortress for the fandom, but in 2026, the tech capital of the world almost turned its back on the biggest musical force on the planet. The speculation started bubbling over on Reddit and X when fans noticed a massive unexplained gap in the West Coast leg of the tour schedule, a gap that looked suspiciously like a cancellation. The rumor mill went into overdrive. Were the boys skipping Northern California for a 3-night residency in Las Vegas instead? The detective army units started digging, and what they found was a logistical nightmare involving the infamous Santa Clara curfew. You see, Levi's Stadium has a notorious history of shutting down concerts exactly at 10 p.m. or 11:00 p.m. due to noise ordinances in the surrounding residential areas. But here's the kicker. For the 2026 tour, the Arirang setlist is rumored to be the longest in BTS history. A massive 3-hour cinematic journey with a lunar finale that requires total darkness to work its holographic magic. Speculation among the tech-savvy fans in San Jose was that HYBE's production team realized the show literally could not finish before the legal curfew without cutting at least 4 major songs, including the highly anticipated OT7 version of Run BTS 2026 remix. Can you imagine flying across the country, spending thousands on a ticket, only to have the power cut during the encore because of a city ordinance? The fan panic was real, with thousands of posts tagged #Save Arirang Santa Clara. But the drama goes deeper. Rumors swirled that the city council was under pressure from anti-noise local groups who didn't want 60,000 screaming armies vibrating the windows of their multi-million-dollar Silicon Valley homes 2 nights in a row. Speculation turned toward the financial side, with reports that the Arirang Tour had already invested over $10 million into a groundbreaking sonic directional audio system, a high-tech speaker array designed to beam the sound directly into the stadium seats while canceling out the noise leaking into the neighborhood. This was supposed to be the Silicon Valley solution, but the rumors said the city's noise testing permits were being mysteriously delayed. Fans started sharing leaked emails, claiming the stadium management was asking for an environmental impact fee that was so high it would have eaten up the entire profit margin for the Northern California dates. The atmosphere in the fandom was one of pure, unadulterated stress. People were looking at the Arirang stage blueprints, which leaked on a Korean forum, and noticing that the gravity-defying suspended LED screens required a structural reinforcement of the Levi's stadium roof that hadn't been budgeted for. The speculation reached a fever pitch when a prominent Tour Insider account tweeted a single purple heart next to a delete emoji, sending the Bay Area armies into a state of mourning. Was the tech hub of the US really going to be the only major region left in the dark? The reflection within the community was deeply emotional, with many fans remembering how the 2020 Map of the Soul Tour was supposed to kick off right there in Santa Clara. To lose it again in 2026 felt like a cosmic joke, a curse that just wouldn't break. There were even conspiracy theories that a major tech giant had outbid HYBE for the stadium dates to hold a secret product launch, using their influence to keep the purple wave at bay. But then, the tide turned. Speculation says that a coalition of army business owners in San Francisco and San Jose presented a formal report to the city, showing that a BTS weekend brings in more tech tourism revenue than a 3-day AI convention. We are talking about millions of dollars in hotel stays, public transit usage, and local dining that would have evaporated. The Arirang Tour wasn't just a concert, it was an economic lifeline. To save the date, rumors suggest that HYBE had to agree to a record-breaking noise bond, a multi-million-dollar insurance policy that would be forfeited if a single decibel went over the limit after 11 p.m. This is the level of high stakes we are dealing with for 2026. The fact that the Santa Clara dates are still on the calendar is a testament to a massive, behind-the-scenes financial gamble where millions were spent on sound-dampening technology and legal fees just to ensure the purple lights could shine in the heart of Silicon Valley. When the Arirang show finally starts and those holographic moon whales float over the stadium, every fan there will know that those extra minutes of magic were bought with a price. It wasn't just a yes from the city, it was a hard-fought victory against bureaucracy and the cold silence of the tech world. Can you imagine the sheer intensity of the mic drop performance in a city that almost silenced them forever? The energy is going to be radioactive. Santa Clara didn't just stay on the list, it became a symbol of the fandom's refusal to be muted. Every time you see that Levi's Stadium logo on the tour poster, remember that it was nearly a blank space. A what if that would have left a hole in the heart of the 2026 World Tour. The investment wasn't just in the stage, it was an investment in the promise that no matter the curfew, the music will always find a way to break the silence. Number 3. Chicago, Illinois. The Windy City's invisible barrier. Army, we have to talk about the Midwest meltdown that almost left the 2026 Arirang World Tour with a massive Chicago-sized hole in its heart, because the drama surrounding Soldier Field was on a level of stress core we haven't seen since the 2019 rain-soaked Microcosmos era. If you were tracking the HYBE schedule release in early 2026, you probably noticed that Chicago was the very last major city to get that official confirmed purple checkmark, and for 3 agonizing weeks, the fandom was convinced that the Windy City was being ghosted. The speculation was absolutely wild, and the army detectives on TikTok and Discord were working overtime, pulling up wind speed charts and construction permits like they were preparing for a PhD defense. The core theory? It all came down to the Arirang Tour's most ambitious piece of tech, the Skyloom silk screens. These are these massive 6-0-foot-tall translucent tapestries that are supposed to catch holographic projections to create the illusion of the members floating in the clouds. But rumors swirled that the legendary wind coming off Lake Michigan turned those screens into literal sails. Imagine the nightmare millions of dollars worth of high-tech silk and carbon fiber rigging being caught by a 40-mile-per-hour gust and potentially lifting the entire stage right off the soldier field turf. Speculation grew that the structural engineers had actually vetoed the Chicago stop because the safety insurance for a 360-degree open-air show in the Windy City during the 2026 spring season was deemed financially suicidal. We're talking about an estimated $18 million investment in specialized suction anchor technology that HYBE supposedly had to commission just to keep the stage from becoming a kite. Fans were spiraling, sharing leaked overhead shots of the stadium where the grass looked untouched, while every other tour stop was already seeing equipment trucks arriving. The atmosphere in the Chicago Army group chats was pure heartbreak. People were reminiscing about how BTS and Chicago have this fated connection with the weather, but this time, it felt like the elements were finally winning. There was even a darker theory floating around that the city of Chicago was hesitant to grant the permit because of historic landmark restrictions. Since Soldier Field is a memorial, rumors suggested that the intense bass frequencies from the 2026 Arirang audio system, which uses subatomic bass technology to make you feel the music in your literal bones, were flagged as a risk to the structural integrity of the stadium's iconic colonnades. Can you imagine the irony? The music being too powerful for the architecture? This led to a massive digital protest, where fans started sharing the economic impact reports from HYBE's legendary Lollapalooza set, proving that Chicago needs Bangtan as much as Bangtan needs Chicago. The reflection in the fandom turned deeply emotional, with many pointing out that Chicago is where Magic Shop feels the most real, and the thought of a 2026 tour without a Lake Michigan sunset backdrop felt like a betrayal of the group's history. Speculation then shifted to a secret plan B, rumors that the show was going to be moved to a massive airport hangar in the suburbs, but fans were having none of it. It was Soldier Field or bust. The tension reached its peak when a ghost listing appeared on a major hotel booking site for 50,000 purple discount rooms in downtown Chicago, only to be deleted 10 minutes later. Was it a glitch or a sign of a deal falling apart? Some fans speculated that the Arirang stage for Chicago had to be completely redesigned at the last minute to be aerodynamic, adding another $5 million to the production cost just to ensure the members wouldn't be blown away during the lunar tidal 50Cs. Finale. Every day without an update felt like a year, and the Windy City curse became a trending topic that kept everyone awake at night. There were even rumors of a silent auction where wealthy donors and local business coalitions stepped in to cover the insane insurance premiums because they knew that skipping Chicago would mean losing out on over $100 million in local revenue from the Boralog pop-up shops to the themed cafes that were already being built. The stakes weren't just musical, they were astronomical. When the confirmation finally dropped at midnight, accompanied by a teaser video of the Chicago skyline turning purple, the collective sigh of relief from the fandom could have probably powered the city's grid for a week. It was a victory of willpower over wind, a testament to the fact that HYBE was willing to sink millions into weatherproofing a dream just so they wouldn't have to break their promise to the Midwest. The sheer detail of the struggle, the permits, the wind tests, the landmark disputes shows just how close we came to a silent Soldier Field. Now, when the Arirang lights hit those pillars and the music echoes across the lake, we'll know that every note was fought for against the very air itself. Can you imagine the goosebumps when RM says, "Hello, Chicago," after all that uncertainty? It's going to be the ultimate I'm home moment of the tour. Chicago didn't just make the list, it survived a multi-million-dollar what-if scenario that almost saw the city left behind in the dust. The investment wasn't just in the anchors and the silk, it was an investment in the memory of every fan who stood in the rain in 2019 and waited 7 years for this specific reunion. Every time you feel that Chicago breeze during the show, remember, that wind almost stole the concert, but the purple wave was just too strong to be pushed back. Number 2. New Jersey, MetLife. The $500 million structural nightmare. Army, if you think you know what stress feels like, you clearly weren't on Army Twitter during the great MetLife blackout of late 2025, because what happened in East Rutherford wasn't just a scheduling conflict, it was a full-blown existential crisis. For the 2026 Arirang World Tour, we are talking about the crown jewel of the East Coast, the place where the purple ocean usually meets the New York City skyline in the most iconic way possible. But for several months, it looked like that ocean was going to be drained dry. The speculation started when a local New Jersey urban explorer posted a 4K drone video of MetLife Stadium at 3 a.m., showing massive red X marks spray-painted onto the main structural support pillars near the south end zone. Within 6 hours, the fandom had transformed into a global team of forensic architects. The rumor? A catastrophic structural fatigue was discovered during a routine inspection, and the speculation among the detective accounts was that the stadium might be condemned for all major events throughout the summer of 2026. Can you imagine the sheer terror of thinking the most legendary venue on the tour was literally crumbling? But it gets even deeper and more BTS-coded. The Arirang Tour stage, which we've heard is a 400-ton behemoth of liquid LED, glass, and carbon fiber, was rumored to be too heavy for the aging foundations of the stadium. Fans were digging up old geological surveys of the Meadowlands, claiming that the marshy ground underneath the stadium was sinking under the weight of the massive production requirements. The speculation was that the Celestial Bridge, that moving walkway the boys used to fly over the crowd, required a tension wire system that MetLife's roofless structure simply couldn't support without a $200 million reinforcement. We saw thousands of threads with fans arguing about load-bearing capacities and seismic vibrations, with many fearing that the intense bass from the 2026 Arirang sound system would literally shake the stadium apart. The atmosphere was one of impending doom. I remember seeing fans from New York, Philly, and even Boston start a massive digital prayer circle, because if MetLife fell, the entire East Coast leg of the tour would have been a ghost zone. The rumor mill then pivoted to a secret relocation plan. Speculation was flying that HYBE was desperately trying to book Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, but those venues were too small for the 360-degree stage, meaning that thousands of fans would have had their tickets voided. The financial stakes were mind-boggling. We are talking about a potential loss of $150 million in ticket sales and merchandise alone, not to mention the Boralog hotel takeovers that were already being planned in Manhattan. Then came the shipment scandal. Fans tracking cargo ships noticed that the Arirang production vessel H4, which was carrying the specific LED floor panels for the New Jersey shows, was denied entry at the Port of New York and New Jersey for 2 weeks. The theory? The city was blocking the shipment until a safety bond of $50 million was paid by the organizers. The anxiety was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. Every time a news report mentioned Jersey infrastructure, the fandom would collectively hold its breath. There was even a speculative theory that the members themselves were heartbroken and were looking into doing a free street concert in Times Square if the stadium deal failed, which sent the NYPD into a total tailspin. The reflection in the fandom during this time was deeply nostalgic and painful. People were posting clips of the 2019 Speak Yourself fireworks over MetLife, saying, "This can't be how the story ends." It felt like a race against time, a battle between a decaying stadium and the most high-tech concert in human history. To save the date, rumors suggest that a private consortium of local business leaders and international investors stepped in to fund a rapid response structural reinforcement, a project that reportedly cost $80 million and was completed in total secrecy under the cover of night. Fans were literally camping out in the parking lots of nearby shopping malls just to catch a glimpse of the purple test lights that would signal the stadium was safe. The sheer detail of the MetLife mystery is something that will go down in Army history as the ultimate test of our collective nerves. When that final confirmation post finally went live, the one showing the MetLife logo draped in a purple holographic veil, the internet basically broke. It wasn't just a yes for a concert, it was a yes to the continuation of a legacy. The fact that millions were spent just to keep a stadium from sinking under the weight of the Arirang vision tells you everything you need to know about how too big to fail this tour really is. Can you imagine the feeling of walking into that stadium in 2026, knowing that every step you take on that concrete was almost a no-go zone? The energy is going to be spiritual. New Jersey didn't just stay on the map, it became a symbol of the fandom's refusal to let the physical world stop the purple dream. Every firework that goes off over that Hudson River skyline will be a reminder of the $500 million gamble that almost ended in a what if. We are talking about a level of commitment that transcends music. It's about a city and a fandom that refuse to let a structural nightmare wake them up from the dream of a lifetime. The investment wasn't just in the steel and the concrete, it was in the promise that the East Coast would get its Arirang moment, no matter the cost. Every time you see that MetLife skyline on the 2026 tour vlogs, remember, it took a miracle, millions of dollars, and the sheer willpower of the army to make sure that home was still there for the boys to return to. Number 1. Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. The billion-dollar ghost stadium heartbreak. Army, take a deep breath because we've reached the summit. There is video take, and the story of how Los Angeles, the second home of BTS, almost became the biggest no-show in music history is enough to make your heart stop. You'd think the city that hosted Permission to Dance on Stage would be a total lock, right? Wrong. In the lead-up to the 2026 Arirang World Tour, SoFi Stadium was actually the #1 city most likely to be scrapped, and the speculation behind this nearly broke the entire internet. The rumor mill started grinding when fans noticed that while every other city was getting teasers, the LA dates were being met with a deafening, cold silence from both HYBE and the stadium's official social media. The Army Intelligence Agency on Reddit began tracking a massive legal battle involving exclusive territory rights and a rumored multi-billion-dollar sponsorship clash. Speculation was that a major rival tech conglomerate had signed an exclusivity clause with SoFi for the entire summer of 2026, which would have legally banned any event using the liquid LED and holographic AI tech that the Arirang Tour is famous for. We are talking about a $5 billion stadium being held hostage by a contract dispute that almost forced BTS to move the grand finale of the US leg to a much smaller venue, or, even worse, skip California entirely. Can you imagine the sheer chaos of millions of fans trying to cram into a smaller stadium? The fan panic was at a level 10. People were sharing leaked screenshots of internal emails suggesting that the LA dates were indefinitely suspended due to a failure to reach a revenue-sharing agreement that was reportedly worth over $200 million. The detail that really sent everyone over the edge was the ghost stage theory, rumors that a prototype of the Arirang stage had already been built in a secret hangar near LAX, but was being dismantled because the permit fees for the pyrotechnics in the Inglewood flight path had been hiked by 400%. Fans were literally using flight simulators to prove that the Arirang laser show wouldn't interfere with planes, trying to save their city from a bureaucratic death sentence. The atmosphere in the fandom was one of betrayal. How could the city where the Purple Revolution truly took off in 2021 be the one to turn its back on them now? The reflection within the community was tear-jerking, with fans posting then versus now montages of the 2021 SoFi shows, praying that 2026 wouldn't be the year the lights went out. Speculation then took a wild turn. Rumors of a secret rival tour by a Western artist trying to block book all of SoFi's available dates just to keep BTS out of the top spot for the 2026 box office records. This wasn't just about music, it was a war for the throne of the global entertainment capital. To save the show, rumors suggest that a massive global army petition, combined with a last-minute $100 million guarantee fund from international tourism boards, forced the stadium's hand. They realized that losing the BTS effect, which is estimated to bring more money to LA than the Super Bowl, would be a financial suicide for the city's 2026 fiscal year. The stakes were so high that it reportedly took a personal diplomatic envoy to bridge the gap between the sponsors and the tour organizers. The fact that LA is still the Arirang crown jewel is a testament to the fact that some things are just too big to fail. When that final, glittering confirmation for SoFi Stadium dropped, featuring a 1-0 clip of Jungkook looking out over the LA skyline, the purple wave of relief literally crashed social media servers for hours. It wasn't just a yes, it was a statement that the heart of the fandom cannot be moved by contracts or red tape. Can you imagine the roar of that crowd in 2026, knowing that the billion-dollar ghost was brought back to life by the sheer force of our love and a massive, high-stakes financial gamble? It's going to be the most emotional, high-energy show of the decade. Los Angeles didn't just stay on the list, it reclaimed its throne after a battle that almost left us with nothing but what-ifs. The investment wasn't just in the lasers and the LEDs, it was in the soul of the city itself. Every time those purple lights hit the SoFi roof, remember, we almost lost this moment, and that makes the music sound a million times sweeter.